Hello YouTube, VGH here to go over a deck that has been making rounds in recent online events. I'm talking about Festival Lead. With just this last week, it's finally showing itself as a major contender in the competitive space. In just the first week of the new year, we've had 6 top finishes in online events. Although, as you can see, it hasn't had any real success since November of last year. I've been playing this deck myself recently, and the more comfortable I get with it, the more potential I see with how the deck can function. I find myself being able to make some very big plays and plan many moves in advance very easily. I'll be going over the deck list that I've been using, and each card's utility and value they bring to the table. And then we'll talk about things like matchups, plays, worst case scenarios to watch out for. This way, if you're playing the deck or playing against the deck, you can learn what can seriously hinder you or your opponent and what to watch out for. Starting with our Pokemon in the deck, we run a 4-4 line of Grookey and Thwackey with the Boom Boom Groove ability. This ability is honestly incredible in this deck. It reads, once during your turn, if your active Pokemon has Festival Lead ability, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This ability in this deck is a free search every turn with no drawback of an ability like Pidgeot EX, where you can only use that effect once per turn. If you have 4 Thwackey, you can search 4 cards. Along with it being a single prize, makes the prize trade usually in your favor. Next up is our 4-3 copy of Goldeen and Seaking, both having the Festival Elite ability. Since they both have this ability, they can synergize with Thwackey on the bench and allow you to make perfect turns without having to rely on any draw cards. Speaking of drawing cards, though, Seaking's attack is also geared at drawing. For 1 energy, you can attack for 60 and draw 2 cards. But that's not where the attack ends, but where the power of Festival Lead comes in. Festival Lead reads, if Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. If the first knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active Pokemon. Meaning, Festival Grounds being in play makes the minimum damage of this attack 120, and the effect draws 4 total cards. Like I said though, that's the minimum. And we are going to get to more of that later. A quick note to make is that Goldeen can attack for 2 energies, and when it does, you flip a coin, and if it lands heads, you discard an energy on the opposing Pokemon, giving you 2 chances to remove up to 2 energy. Next is our 2-2 line of Applin and Dipplin. We chose the Grass-type Applin specifically because, with the right conditions, it can deal with specifically Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. 1 Grass energy hits for 20, our Ace Spec Max Belt adds 50, and Black Belt's Training adds 40. All adding up to a whopping 110 damage. And Cornerstone, being weak to grass, doubling it, can lead to 220 damage, knocking out Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. The focus, however, is the Festival Lead Pokemon Dipplin, whose Do the Wave attack hits for 1 grass energy, 20 times the amount of Pokemon you have on the bench, which usually leads to 100 damage, plus Festival Grounds allowing for another strike, making it 200 damage. But again, that's just the minimum. And to round out the deck, we do run a 1-1 line of Baniri and Mega Lopunny EX to handle Cornerstone or other 2 prize liabilities that usually finish a match, along with 1 Shaman to protect our bench snipe, and Psyduck for protection against Dusknoir. Also, while reading Psyduck more in depth while playing this deck, we realize it also blocks Magneton's effect and Frostlass EX's effect. Just something to keep in mind if you use Psyduck. So that's going to wrap up our Pokemon. Our supporters are much more streamlined and need much less explanation, so this should be quick. Starting with a 4 count of Lily's Determination, a 2 count of Boss's Orders, and a 2 count of Iono. The 2 unique cards still in the list are a 2 count of Black Belt's Training and a 1 count of Kirin. This is where math comes into play, and the deck will make you actually think. Black Belt's Training reads, during this turn, attacks by your Pokemon do 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX before applying weakness and resistance. Add this to the ability of Festival Lead, which allows Goldeen, Seaking, and Dipplin to attack 2 times. It's kind of like adding 80 damage extra on top of your attacks. Same goes for Kieran, who gives you a choice of to either switch your active Pokemon with your bench, or reading, during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX. Although this, again, is just one more boost to damage that the deck gets. Let's bring out the tools of the deck in order to add even more power. We run 4 tools for versatility, starting with our Ace Spec Max Belt, giving us an extra 50 damage against EX Pokemon. Following it up with Brave Bangle, adding 30 damage against EX Pokemon. Vitality Band for a plus 10 against everything. And finally, Counter Gain, where if we're behind, we can attack with Goldeen for 1 energy or Seaking for 0. To round out the deck, we have just a few items to go over, a stadium to go over, and an energy to speak of. So very quickly, we run 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin, 3 Nest Ball, 2 Ultra Ball, a Super Rod, a Night Stretcher, 4 counts of Festival Ground, 4 Jet Energy, and 2 Grass Energy. Let me show you some of the games I had that really showed off how versatile the deck can really be. All right, so let's get ourselves right into the game after you guys heard that wonderful explanation. We have, well, Festival Lead gameplay. Now, obviously, these are games that we took from our stream, as per you can see me in the background there. So these are tournament matches that we were playing actually in the Blue Ditto tournament. We did get to phase 2 using this. Our final record was 7-3 in the tournament. Festival Lead, I think the same night, went to go getting a top 8 finish as well. So it does definitely go to show that it does have a place in today's meta. It's getting a lot of wins, it's getting a lot of recommendations, and people are really trying to figure it out more and more as time goes on. So our first matchup here is Teal Mask Ogerpon with Poltergeist, Sinestcha EX, and Sinestcha, sorry. The Sinestcha is a 1 energy. You can drop 3 energies from your board to do 70 damage per energy, so you can do 210 for a single prize Pokemon very, very easily. Your 2 prize liabilities are easily the Teal Mask Ogerpons, but the big attacker is usually the Sinestcha. The Sinestcha EX is another 1 energy attack where it takes all your grass energies that are in the discard pile, puts them back into your deck, and it snipes 1 Pokemon equal to 20 times the amount of energies you put back into your deck. So you have kind of a good combination with a very unique formula deck. Poltergeist and Teal Mask Ogerpon both have the ability, because Teal Mask Ogerpon is a Terra Pokemon, that they can't be shot when they're on the bench. So they do have their own kind of protection. From that deck profile you guys just saw, you may see a couple of different cards in here. This was a previous version of the deck. As you may have seen, that Hilda was not in the deck originally. Hilda was in the deck originally, but I figured we had Ultra Balls and we drew so many cards, we very rarely ever really needed the Hilda for anything besides a Jet Energy search. But just so that way you guys are aware, very much so that you can still run that card. It's not bad to add it to the deck to help you find a Jet Energy. One of the negatives of this deck is that people do end up using Counter Catcher plus Iono into the late game, where they Counter Catcher up your Thwackey, and then they Iono you to like 2-3 cards, and if you don't find a Jet Energy out of that, the Thwackey is stuck in the active, and it becomes a real bit of a hassle to try and outplay certain things, where your opponent is able to have some time to build up their list. So it's good to like think about the future, you know, hold a Jet Energy in your hand, hold a Jet Energy in your deck. If you don't need to play more energies, don't play more energies. Hilda can be added to the deck, like I said, in order to make it easier to find said Jet Energy. Even an Air Balloon can be added to the deck. There's a lot of different options for the list. It's still up in the air what the best version of Festival Lead really is, but as you can see, we're already ahead. We're already setting up for turn after turn, you know. We used our one of Counter Catcher, brought up the Pheasantipity, and now we're just doing math, you know. We're using Thwackey to search other Thwackeys. We're using attacks in order to take out Pokemon. We know we can take out this Pheasantipity for a liability 260. Bam, takes 2 prizes after an Iono play. You know, we stop our opponent from drawing. We have easy ways of bringing up cards. We used an Iono to 5, and we ended the turn with, well, a massive hand. And we also still have Goldeen on the bench. if your opponent knocks out a single Thwacky, big whoop, but we also still have double Goldeen, which both have the Festival Lead attack ability, so you can still use the Boom Boom Groove from Thwacky to search more cards. See, congratulations, my opponent took a knockout, but now we have so many cards in hand, a Festival Lead ready to go, and a triple search. Like, imagine you use, Pidgeot EX, and you can search one card out of your deck, and that card can help you pivot the entire turn. Yeah, well, imagine you can do that 3 times every single turn, and just choose what you need in order to get knockouts. Because we just went for, a Sea King, which we didn't have, a Maximum Belt we didn't have, and now we can just bring up the Teal Mask Ogerpon using a boss's orders, and we hit 110 on Sea King, which is 220 on a Teal Mask Ogerpon for a 2-prize knockout. What's our opponent going to do? Our entire board is only single prizers, so if we get a 2-prize lead on them, they're not going to make a comeback. The best thing that this deck that I'm looking at right here, my opponent's deck, is to attack forward. They can't shoot the bench, so getting my Thwacky into the active isn't going to change too much, especially when they have less cards in their deck. They can't just try and stall me out. They just sit there. And I'll just wait until I draw another, Jet Energy. I know what's in my deck at this point. I know how many things they have. It's like, cool, you've Sinestro. All your energy are back in your deck now. Now what do you do? Nothing. I believe that was our first round of the Blue Ditto event. So, we can run into anything on that. Going into phase, our round 2 here, we did get not the best option. We do run a 4/4 Grookey Thwacky line. Opening Grookey isn't the best, but you also got to remember we do run the Jet Energy, so like you can still jet out of it so we can get Goldeen into the active. The first turn is usually Thwacky searches Thwacky, and then the last Thwacky searches one other card to try and help you get a better setup. We know this deck pretty well, and whenever you see a Duskull come out, then you go after the Psyduck that's in your deck to put it on the bench. If you don't see a Duskull come down, don't ever go after anything. We also used our Lilies here first to see if we can find more cards to play before using our Thwacky into other cards. Obviously, so we are now just setting up the future of the turn. We already had a Jet Energy on the Goldeen, so we just needed the Sea King. We're not taking knockouts, and we don't see Munkidori or energies of any kind, so we just put up the damage and draw 4 cards. 120 may not seem like a lot, but drawing 4 is huge. Getting that massive card advantage is just insane. Now, I'm not quite sure, I didn't actually take a look when this was going over right there, on whether or not I had the opportunity to search for Psyduck and just chose not to, or if I just didn't. Never mind, that answered the question right there. I must have tried to search the Psyduck and didn't find it and got upset it wasn't the prizes, and then drew into it and probably got more upset. But if he doesn't get rid of the other Duskull, we had the Psyduck, so we can fix that. So, it's really funny if we had Applin, there is opportunities for me to take out Mega Lopunny EX. It's difficult, but it is possible. We're looking into seeing how much damage we can output and see if we can get, the Mega out here. Which, luckily, we are able to, and we are able to go Thwacky into another Thwacky, and now we have 3 searches every single turn just to go get everything we need, which we're doing right now since we have the Sea King and the Energy and the Black Belt, which 60 plus 40 against an EX is 100 that you can ping twice for 200 damage, and drawing 4 cards against Mega Kangaskhan, which is 3 prizes. Since our earlier turn and we took out that 1 prizer earlier, we are leading ourselves to winning that prize trade. Obviously, they have another 3 prizer on the board. We don't really care for it. So long as we can take out the Latias or the Fezandipiti, our 2 prize liabilities that we see, which you guys may know, we have plenty of options to do, whether that's buffing a Dipplin to attack for 230 every turn with a Brave Bangle, or a Black Belt's training and a Vitality Band on a Sea King, or our 1-count 1/1 Baneri Lopunny, which Jet Energy brings it to the active to swing for 230 damage, and we can still use a Festival Lead Sea King in the active first to use all of our Thwackies to search bosses, Lopunny, Jet Energy, bring it all out in one swift move, and then kick them square in the face, knocking the Fezandipiti straight out to get our 2 prizes. We still have opportunities everywhere here. We have Maximum Belt. We have Boss's Orders. Hey, look, a Fezandipiti. We know every piece that we need. Oh, well, we need a Sea King. Boom. All right, well, there it is. And now we have 110 damage twice. Clear the board. Those 2 prize liabilities are the best thing you can possibly see when playing our festival lead list, because all it is a 2 prizer for us at any point. This may look a little drastically done for our turn 1, no energy, no boosters, but just the Goldeen and the active immediately gives us that kind of value we need, especially because we also have Sea King. And a good thing to point out, there was a Terra Charizard with Terrapagos and Pidgeot that's been circling tournaments, incredibly widely these days. Luckily, the entire deck's weak to water until it's a Charizard, and then it's still able to get one shot by grass because it's weak to grass, which is Dipplin. So we have basically all of the things, and I'm just setting up for the next couple of turns. We put down those rookies right there, so we couldn't go Thwackey into Thwackey into Thwackey, obviously. So we just went the 1 Thwackey, set up the board state so that way we're good, and just swing in, draw 4 cards, take 2 knockouts. And, well, maybe he has a rare candy and a Charizard, so we can start attacking back. But we're kind of hoping for that because, well, we got Hilda, so we can search out the Dipplin and a Grass Energy, and we can just, make the Dipplin attack for 100 damage. That multiplies to 200 twice. So we can still one-shot Charizard. Terrapagos for 230. Well, Brave Bangle, a Dipplin, that's 260. Bam, is done. Mega, give a Maximum Belt or a Brave Bangle to a Sea King, and then give it Black Belt's Training for another 40 damage. So now you're hitting for, if you're hitting the Black Belt's Training plus a Brave Bangle, you're hitting for 130 twice, or you can hit for 150 twice. The damage is always there to take on a 330 HP Pokemon. It's just, you may need a little bit of a setup. But if you get set up, the deck is a lot of win more, where if we can get a very quick lead on our opponent. We also seem to open many Buddy Buddy Poffins. I don't know if anyone's keeping track, but I opened like a Buddy Buddy Poffin in every one of these games, and these were in tournament matches. So this is an amazing start for us, obviously. We have Thwackey, we got the Goldeen in the active. My opponent 0-6. Oh no. So this was a bad matchup, but I did show off just what the deck can really do with this, where we're able to just bring things out. You do see 2 Brave Bangles here. I did switch one of the Brave Bangles out with a Vitality Band. There were so many instances where a Sea King would not be able to get a knockout on, say, a Dreepy, because the Brave Bangle and Maximum Belts only boost against EX Pokemon. Same thing with Black Belt's Training and Kieran, but Vitality would make it hit for 70, and that 70 means a lot, where some Pokemon even actually have 140 HP, where we needed the 70 to get a knockout with 2 swings. But like I said, this match is just to show off how the deck can really kind of click things together, where we were able to get a 1-turn setup, and then we can go Thwackey into Thwackey into Thwackey into Sea King, and then Sea King can draw 4 cards. So our board state is now triple search, an attacker drawing 4 cards, so we have every card in our hand, and now I just need to, just show off more of what the deck can do. Unfortunately, there is no tool removal, no special energy removal, and we don't actually have a knockout here. So it does kind of suck because we, again, didn't this tournament we didn't have the Vitality Band for boosted damage. But we are still able to put up big amounts of damage. Unfortunately, our opponent just kind of bricked. So we have like 14 cards in our hand, maybe more. We have triple free searches. We have every Sea King ready to go, and our opponent just can't attack. So they can survive. They can still heal themselves and do other things, but they're not really gonna do anything per se. Tool Scrapper, he took himself out on his own accord, so that was just a funny little bit. But I wanted to make sure people did see that, how effectively quick the deck can just set itself up and just keep going. Yeah, so again, we didn't open a Goldeen like we like to, but it's not too bad. And we did see a Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, so we are able to throw Nest Ball to go get the Shaman to protect our bench from the Torrential Pump ability. This was a unique matchup, so I was very much excited to see what it was going to do. We had to like get so many other pieces, and we needed to try and get some damage out there. Wanted to see what we could do. We found our bench pieces. We found a lot of good stuff. I couldn't find a Grass Energy, so I just throw up the Jet, so that way hopefully Goldeen can do something, but it did not do what I wanted it to. And then I followed up by not putting down the Baneri I wanted to, because I don't know. Because if I end up getting a Jet Energy and Lopunny, which I can do with a Thwackey, or I could have just done Hilda, like right there. Hilda is an option too, or I could have went Hilda for the Mega Lopunny into, you know, getting a swing. Also, this board state was abysmal because we only had the one of Thwackey, so we had to work with what we had. I also think I may have just noticed that there wasn't a Lopunny in the deck, so maybe I didn't have options to. But, draw 4, pretty impressive. This matchup was so hard because I was afraid of that Empoleon triggering, because its attack minus is 60, and if we attack twice, it's 2 weakened attacks. So it's not minus 60, it's like minus 60 from 60 damage, and then minus 60 from 60 damage again. So it's pretty bad. We do set up to get the knockout here. We actually can swing here for 90, knocking out the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, and then forcing something else to come in, which is then going to take another 90, because we can still swing again. If we had the Stadium, which I could have sworn I had. I'm pretty sure I swore I had it when I attacked right there, too. And my opponent just pulling off the wonderful Iono there with not being able to capitalize on it because I didn't find the Evolution Metang, so we just have to work with what we have. So we all go straight out for the Festival lead so I can swing twice and hopefully boost myself back up. And we wanted to put up as much damage as possible because we needed to try and like put in that work now before he gets increased defense. So we put up the 180, knock out most of his HP. His Stadium's a problem. His attack is a problem. So we're kind of like working around things. If I ended up doing the extra 40 damage for each one of those attacks, it would have went up to, what, 260 or 280 or something like that? It would have been, or 260. So it still wouldn't have gotten the knockout. So we were trying to save the Black Belt's training for another Pokemon that where we could have gotten the knockout. Weakening it is fine. Whether or not they had a Turo, we're not sure. But I don't think they would run it into a defensive build Empoleon. We're just looking for more cards to play, things like this, where we can actually get this out, go the Jet Energy, and go the full mile in order to, like I said before, Jet Energy the 230 and get a swing in. Minusing 60, it still would have survived, even if I did hit it for full damage, but now that I have this, 2 Energy 160 does cut through abilities and effects, so we wanted to get that Mega Lopunny, especially because they can only max 210 damage. With this board state, they were never managing to knock out the Mega Lopunny, but we now have a Slicer where we can slice through that damage. We have Shaman here, that's why they didn't retreat out the Empoleon to try and bring out the Wellspring Mask, because it wouldn't have changed anything. And I'm just trying to keep fuddling through cards. There it is. Now I get the 160. I could have retreated and then used the Gen Energy and hit that, 230 again, but I figured what was the point. My opponent bringing up the Thwackey, which realistically does make sense. I have to stop searching, but I do have to find an answer to deal with the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon, which Shaman does not protect, by the way, because Shaman doesn't protect EX Pokemon. But I also have plenty of opportunity here with just finding things like Grass Energy. If we get a Grass Energy here, we just win the game. And I banked on hopefully finding either the Thwackey or the Grass Energy, and luckily for me, I found the Thwackey, so we get our big 150, do the wave twice, clear the board. It was spooky when he took that Mega Lopunny, but even with the Lopunny play, we played around. How much, prizes does he get? How can we still win even if we lose the Lopunny, and we can still stall it for one move? We can. Lopunny is like the biggest liability of the deck because it's a 3-prize liability. You rarely ever want to put the Lopunny down unless it's basically to win the game. Like, you can just leave it on the bench the entire time until you're using it to attack. We did run into one of the most painful decks of the format. Gardevoir and Jellicent. My opponent does everything they can to stop me from using items. The funny part about this deck is that there are actually, besides like Buddy Poffin, like specifically, and maybe Nest Ball, you don't really use that many items. Knowing full well that I'm item locked, I obviously just bring out different cards. I couldn't get a knockout with a Vitality Band or a Brave Bangle or anything like that. So I have to just swing on the Frillish twice, which is, you know, fair enough. I get rid of the Psychic, I get rid of the item locking Pokemon. We just kind of sit there and just kind of let things ride. And we are one prize ahead, which is really, really good for us, especially because this deck has to use a 2-prize Pokemon that we can one-shot. Well, 2-shot. 1 attack. Whereas we don't use any 2 prizers. So if we get ahead, we can kind of manipulate staying ahead. Obviously, Screamtail is scary, and we could have stopped this from working realistically if we just got Shaman on the board, but didn't have it before we attacked with the Sea King. So now that we do have it, obviously we're going to start throwing everything at the board, protecting our bench, building up our board even better, and getting rid of some cards like Nest Ball, which we just don't need to run into. I think I had to discuss with myself, is it valuable to put the Shaman down or just play something better? Because Shaman will protect my bench, but it's not like super necessary if I'm about to take out the Screamtail. Funny thing is still, you know, Screamtail, you know, it gets knocked out and I get a free attack. So where is he going to go with it, you know? So I guess I decided in my head that it didn't matter. I'm not going to use Iono or Lilies when my board state looks like this, and we're just going to get more cards. We actually don't get a knockout with the Ralts, which is another reason why I wanted a Vitality Band in this deck, because if Ralts would come up, the Vitality Band will get a knockout on it, which just feels better. He had a free retreat, retreated the Ralts, and then manually attached 3 energies to the Gardevoir because he had no other play rather than just trying to keep it safe or just use Frillish to item lock me. Which is, you know, fair. I would have probably used bosses. But because he had to attack that way, I can now abuse it because he's under 300, which makes Dipplin just super crazy strong. Especially when I can just search out what I need. I'm checking the damage, trying to figure out what I can do. I didn't want to use Max Belt, so we can hit 280 with this instead. And just set up my board state a little bit more. I probably could have or should have grabbed the Jet Energy in anticipation for running into something along the lines of like a boss's orders play into Thwackey, but then he wouldn't be able to use Iono. So the more I played the deck, the more I understood, like, I should always have a Jet Energy in hand in case they're trying to play the air, like, Jet, you know, if they boss up Thwackey to try and lock me in or counter catcher Iono. It's like, keep Jet Energies in your deck while keeping Jet Energies in your hand to be ready to outplay the boss's orders lock. And I don't even know. I should not have done that. I have also realized, do not ever, by the way, do not ever put down any of your tools unless you're going to use them to make an attack opportunity. Your opponent can get rid of those tools, and you have no way of getting them back. Don't put down tools unless you know you're going to use them for an actual reason. So this is the instance where I'm like, okay, I had the Jet Energy, got out of it. Lopunny gets the kick in the face. We get another knockout win. Even against Gardevoir, like, that was obviously a bad matchup, but we do have the opportunity to get where we want to go with dealing with Gardevoir. Charizard is weak to water, and, well, the Charmander, Charmeleon are weak to water types, so Sea King hits for double, and then it's weak to grass when it evolves to a Charizard, which makes Dipplin hit for double. Dragapult seems to be one of the worst matchups, but we still have Psyduck in order to counter the Dusknoirs, along with we're still able to get to that 300 damage. It's just a little bit harder to deal with them more than anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. This one did take a long time to work on, but I learned a whole lot during it. So please let me know if you enjoyed it, because I really need to get that information to see if I should even continue doing it like that, or if I should just go back to the very quick, you know, slap together a thing and throw it out there so you guys get the video and information faster. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hopefully I get a lot of comments on this one, so that way you guys tell me what if you liked it or not. I'm out.